Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to thank you for joining the webinar today. My name is Carol Wilkins with the International Surface Event, and I'll be the moderator for the webinar. For updates on events and educational programs offered at the show, visit our Twitter page at Tice Events or at Tice_education for more details. Our webinar today is Modern Technologies, Making Mosaic Art Fit Your Space. Dr. Ted Acworth is a scientist and engineer by trade, as well as an award-winning entrepreneur. He has been developing and commercializing innovative technology for over 20 years. With a deep appreciation for the art of mosaic, he founded Artaic in 2007. Ted holds an MBA from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he was a Sloan Fellow in Innovation and Global Leadership. He holds a PhD in Mechanical Engineering from Stanford University and an MS and BS from Columbia University. He serves as the subcommittee chair for the Massachusetts Governor's Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, the STEM Advisory Council, focusing on 5th to 8th grade education. Ted will be presenting a full 90-minute workshop on the same title at Tice in 2018. And Ted, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Carol. This is Ted Acworth. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay,
great. Well, a pleasure to be here. Thank you for that introduction, Carol. And I'm looking forward to giving a brief webinar here. We'll be here a total of half an hour till 3:30 Eastern Time. And this is really meant to be a short introduction to what we do with mosaics and robotics, and anticipation of a more lengthy workshop that we'll be offering at TIES in January. So hopefully I'll stimulate interest today and get people thinking and curious so that they will join us at our workshop out in Las Vegas in January. So I'll be running through a few sections of this presentation. Slide 2 here is our outline, our learning objectives. We have, I'll be giving a quite brief overview of Mosaic, the art form, the history of it, a bit of history about some people who've used it, some famous names, and some of the terms and terminology and styles around mosaics, so that everybody here can get at least a basic terminology to use as they think about and communicate with collaborators in their designs around mosaic. And then we'll get into looking at how mosaics are designed and fabricated, both in terms of the historical methodologies, which are largely manual, and then some new modern technologies that we use at Artaic in Boston that involve CAD software and robotics and supply chain logistics, and some other things that greatly facilitate and accelerate the process for designing and fabricating. And then we'll have the fun part here. We'll get out of our seat and do a walking tour of our Artaic factory here in Boston. We run every day manufacturing 2 shifts from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and we will walk into our design studio and meet with our designers and look at what they're designing, and then we'll walk into our production facility and meet the robots and the people who work with them and see how we fabricate the product. Then we'll come back into our chair here in our conference room and do a quick wrap up, and I'll answer any questions. So I would love to answer questions, so I'll ask anybody as we go here, feel free to raise your hand, I think is the technology, or even better, type in any question you might have. Those questions will accumulate, and then when we sit down at the end around in about 20 minutes from now, I will just run through them and answer any questions that have accumulated by then. All right, so that's the agenda. Let's get started with the first part, which is the overview of Mosaic. You know, I don't think I've met a designer or an architect yet who did not know what Mosaic was. You know, it's an age-old art form, and it's in our present of mind. But I think what I've learned is very few designers and architects use it or specify it in their projects. But with that, the history is it started out, I think of it as about a 5,000-year-old art form going way back to Mesopotamia, in the 3rd millennium BC. There are, I think it got most well known in the Greek era and the Roman era, and as the Roman Empire grew throughout Europe and Northern Africa, they brought mosaic with them. I've been to the Lake District in England, for example, which was once controlled by Rome, and there are villas there which have beautiful mosaics that still exist today. And that's how I learned about mosaic, was traveling in Europe and realizing that this art form had been spread throughout the European and Northern African region with the Greek era and the Roman era and since. So it also spread through the early Islamic era in the 3rd century. I think a lot of people have heard about or seen many of the Christian basilicas starting around the 4th century BC, and some of those beautiful, absolutely beautiful artisanal mosaics in churches and cathedrals. In the Middle East, in the 5th century, mosaic spread there, as well as the Byzantine Empire or the Eastern Roman Empire from the 6th to even all the way through the 15th century. And also was spread in southern Italy and Sicily through the Norman kingdom. So it's really been this art form that has spread with the rise and fall of various empires, and it's been very popular in those regions, partly because of the religion and also the building practices, and which are based on the materials available and the environment. You know, the Mediterranean region is pretty hot, pretty humid, and not a lot of materials hold up well. But tile, which is used in mosaic, is very durable, moisture and wear and tear. And so it's been a very and the materials are readily available in Southern Europe and Northern Africa. So it's really that's been sort of the nexus or the origination of the art form, which today has spread all over the world, but really came out of Europe over the last 5,000 years. Some notable names in the United States. Louis Tiffany is probably the most famous user and purveyor of mosaic. You know, he liked it because it was such a durable material and served on surfaces where few or no other materials could hold up, impervious to moisture, corrosion, fire, decay, wear and tear, etc. So he brought a lot of mosaic art form and popularized it around the United States market. Gaudi in Spain. Anybody who's been to Barcelona in northeastern Spain has probably seen the famous Gaudi Cathedral and parks, and he popularized the opus palladinum style, which is sort of the crazy paving or broken tile mosaic style. And then even at MC Escher from Norway in more recent times explored the mathematics behind mosaics. So there are a few, if you want to be an expert or sound like an expert at your next cocktail party around mosaic, you just need to learn a few keywords. The first one is the tessera or tesserai, which is the plural. A tessera is a little bit of tile that is one of the tiles that make up the larger mosaic. And this image on the right side here is a good example of a mosaic made up of tesserae. And you see some of these tiles, these are glass tiles, vitreous glass tile, and most of them are square tiles, and that the tesserae are typically square. The sectilii are the ones that are cut or shaped into to fit more of the curves, and you can see towards the center of this spiral form, many of the tiles are cut to kind of fit them into that spiral look. So when you see a mosaic, it's going to be made up of tesserae and sectilii, which are the two types of or shapes of tile, but either the straight, simple squares or the cut and shaped tiles. Andamento is the term for flow, and that's how you see this sort of spiral image on this mosaic has a flow that twists up into a spiral, and using that term andamento is describing that effect or that flow. And then mosaics are always mounted or installed in some sort of substrate or base surface. In modern era, it's often cement or concrete, cement board or hardy backer, whereas in earlier times it might have been laid right on the ground or into cementitious surfaces In some unusual substrates today are MDF or particle fiberboard, metals like aluminum or steel, and even polycarbonate or clear acrylic or resin. We've been developing backlit glass tile mosaics for about 6 years now, and we mount them to various forms of polycarbonate substrates because the polycarbonate is clear and allows the light to come through. There are many styles of mosaic sort of design. Here are 4 of the most popular. Opus circumactum is a technique used to fill large areas to make it look less regular and sort of boring. In this case, the circumactum is sort of fan-shaped patterns that repeat. It looks a little bit more interesting and visually exciting than a simple row column like laying bricks. That's circumactum. Opus palladinum is what I referenced before with Gaudi's style in Spain. This is literally taking usually ceramics and smashing them on the ground and then assembling the pieces into the mosaic to create the imagery. This is also called crazy paving. Opus regulatum is a very regular, uniform row column kind of style. Typically square tiles. It could be rectangular, and this looks the closest to sort of a pixel art style. And then the last one on the right is Opus vermiculatum, which I believe in Italian, these are all sort of Italian terms, means like worm. So the idea is that the andamento of the tile courses meander like a worm might. And so if you have, in this case, for example, an image of a fish, you position the tiles to highlight or outline the edges or the circumference around the object in the image. This is considered to be a much more sort of artisanal, handmade look than, for example, Opus regulatum. So that's a very brief intro to some of the kind of the overview to Mosaic, and now hopefully everybody here feels they know at least a taste of some of the history of Mosaic, some of the famous users of Mosaic, and some of the terms and styles that are most common in Mosaic. And that'll get us to the second part of our webinar here, which is a little bit about how mosaics are designed and made. First of all, though, we'll talk about the applications. I think, again, most designers and architects we've worked with already know that, more or less what Mosaic is, or they have a good concept of it, and they have a good idea about where it can be used. But it's an incredibly versatile material or surface finish. It can be used, we actually make mosaics out of materials such as glass or ceramic or stone, and also some more exotic materials like we've done mosaics out of marbles at a hospital in Philadelphia, a children's pediatric wing. We've made it out of candy, like M&Ms and other exotics, but typically it's stone, ceramic, or glass. And the surfaces that would be covered with the material are often surfaces that really benefit from the durability of the material. For example, wet areas like backsplashes in the kitchen or the bathroom flooring or walls, or the shower walls inside the bathroom. And also places like flooring, which are high wear and tear, Mosaic can hold up as well as any material. Actually, tile flooring over the life cycle is the lowest cost solution for a flooring. Carpet is much lower cost to put in up front, but it has a shorter life and more maintenance required over the duration. Whereas with tile or tile mosaic, it tends to be higher cost at the start than carpet, but because it's so durable and long lasting and requires so little maintenance over the life of the installation, it'll end up being more cost effective than carpet. So those are some of the surfaces, including some exotics like the backlit I described, and making light fixtures with it, and even curved surfaces. It's not terribly uncommon to see cylinders like columns being surfaced with tile mosaic, but it's also, you can do complex curved surfaces, convex, concave surfaces. And we've done some like swimming pools like that were blown gunite, free-form organic formed swimming pools, and then we're able to make mosaics that would fit inside of those surfaces. As far as locations are, commercial and residential, it's really throughout. In commercial, it's sort of the spearhead of the application would be in hotels or hospitality, where people are really looking for a lot of style. But it tends to trickle down into many other areas of commercial work, from corporate and educational to spa and restaurant, retail, public art. Transportation sees a fair amount of mosaic, and public art calls for pieces in places like airports and train stations, where you're looking for art, but it needs to be extremely durable. And then residential, in the places that tend to be wet, like kitchens and bathrooms and outdoor and landscape, is where you see the most of these. So this is an image that sort of gives an idea of how mosaics have traditionally been made. This is you find an artist or an artisan, and you commission them to make a mosaic for you. They are an artist, and they might consult with you to try to understand your intent with the piece they're going to make. But they're also typically an artist and have their own expression. Then you'll go through a complex process of commissioning them and working with them. It can be very long lead times. We've seen projects where a commissioned piece of mosaic was going to take longer than building the actual building, and not even be ready in time for the opening of the building. And it's extremely labor intensive, which is sort of obvious. So the traditional mosaic methods, while they were very popular in the Roman era, for example, were often subsidized by the use of slaves to do the labor. And in developed economies these days, like the United States or Europe, where labor is very expensive, this art form really has declined. And that's probably one of the top reasons why you don't see a lot of it being specified in commercial and residential work. It's complex, it's long lead time, labor intensive, and therefore it's very expensive. So at Artaic, we are a 10-year-old company. We're about 27 people in Boston. We have our location in the Boston Design Center in downtown Boston. And about 10 years ago, I started the company saying, how can we make this beautiful art form more accessible, more affordable, more streamlined, so that more designers and architects could consider using it, including it in their designs. And so we've developed a number of technologies that through the stages of design and assembly and installation really facilitate. So it starts with our computer-aided design software, our CAD software called Tilist. This is a tool where our full-service design department, we run it and drive it for our clients to create renderings and samples. We also give the software away to anybody who'd like to try it out. The workshop that we'll be giving at Surfaces in Las Vegas in January will be a workshop diving a bit deeper into the design software. And we'd invite anybody here to come join us for that and learn more about the design software. Out of the software, we generate these renderings, proposals, and samples, typically same day or next day, and get those out overnight to our clients so they can present those to their clients. And that greatly facilitates the collaboration to design and iterate and converge upon a custom design that's really one of a kind, that's inspired by the designer or architect that we're working with, and is the right fit for their client. And that gets us to the point of being ready. We're in the specification and it's time to manufacture. And instead of using manual labor, the old-fashioned way, which is very expensive and time-consuming, we use robots that we've been developing here for 10 years in Boston. And the next part of this webinar, we will go on our walking tour, and I'll introduce you to Artie, one of our robots. And then everything the robots manufacture are prefabricated and fitted to the surface. We call that print to fit, and those are shipped to the work site, and it greatly facilitates and accelerates the installation process because the sheets of tile are pre-fitted. They don't need to be dry fitted or trimmed or cut to fit the surface. It's all that work is done in advance. So the benefits of these technologies are manifold across the spectrum from design to manufacture to install. It's much more cost effective, it's much more accelerated, it's much more consistent and accurate in terms of tile color and dimension and positioning. We use digital image processing throughout our processes, so we have computer cameras looking at tiles, and they tend to be much more consistent and objective and repeatable. The accuracy with our robots is very high and very consistent, and enable a very wide range of tile sizes and colors and materials. And the print to fit that I mentioned really enables us to design and manufacture exactly the right square footage to fit the space, which really limits the amount of material we need to ship and that ends up as waste on the work site. So it makes for an overall much more streamlined and environmentally friendly process. And again, the digital imaging, we image the tiles when they come into our process and image them as the finished sheet. So we always have a record of every project we manufacture. So if there's ever down the road a need to remanufacture or repair or restore, we can pull up the digital file for that part and remanufacture that, which makes the product much more maintainable over the long haul. So I don't know if there are any questions yet. If there are, feel free to ask them via typing them in. I see a couple coming in here, which is great. We are now going to transition to the fun walking part of our tour. This is only about, I don't know, I think I can do it in about 6 or 8 minutes, something like that. We will transition the technology over here, and Julia here is with me at Artaic in Boston, is going to follow me around, and I'm going to give a live walking tour of Artaic. So let's please hang on a moment while we switch over the technology. I'll be right back.
All right, we're going to start the tour now of Artaic. Are we rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're rolling. Let's go in and check it out. When we were thinking about our lobby here at the Boston Design Center, we were trying to think about what could we show that would be the most specific to the kind of work that Artaic does. And this mosaic mural is a custom-fitted, custom-designed mural. It fits this room, these surfaces, and the art really fits and is designed to work in the flow of this room. So let's come check this one out. Welcome to Artaic. Come visit us anytime in Boston. So let's see, how do we make these? Let's start with the design process. By the way, we also do the backlit mosaics I mentioned. These are vitreous glass tile backlit with LED lighting, and it makes the glass glow, kind of like stained glass windows. We'll visit with Ashley and Katarina in our design group. So here we are designing mosaic proposals for our clients. We work with architects and designers and homeowners, anybody who would like to consider getting a custom piece of mural artwork made. And it starts with us learning a bit about the project, getting some ideas, and then our designers get to work on creating some concepts. So here's our proprietary mosaic design software. This is called Tilist. We've been developing this for about 7 or 8 years now. And this gives us the tools to design mosaics very rapidly and automate a lot of the brute force work around selecting which tiles goes where, while giving the tools to be an artist to our artists. Now this is an example that Ashley's showing. This is the design we did for the lobby that we just walked through. And here we can render it and we can play with it and design it and make it fit and make the art work well for the space. So again, the process starts by us consulting with our clients, getting some direction of where they want to go, and then our design department making designs and renderings that we propose. We always propose the aesthetic artwork as well as the pricing and the lead time to make it. We also, by the way, have a version of our software for doing the hand-cut style of mosaic. And here we're doing, we can fill regions and features of the art with much more intricate shaped tiles and have courses and fitted tiles. This leads to the hand-cut style. These are some examples of projects we've rendered and sampled up here. This is again our lobby. So here's some different design concepts we worked with. And once we selected one that we thought was the right one, we made a physical sample board. And once that was approved, we went into production. And speaking of physical sample board, let's go into our physical production area and check that out. So we're very much a design build shop. and we'll take a look at the build side. Here we are, still in Boston, Massachusetts, USA, designing and fabricating the mosaics. This is our sampling area. So after we create the digital rendering, we move into making physical samples. So here you can very rapidly, usually same day or by the next day, make a custom sample and ship it out to our clients anywhere in the world. You want to take a close look at this? Colin's making a line board. So whenever we make a custom proposal, we also show all the colors that are available in that range so that our clients can play with the colors, not just the one design we offered them. So ultimately, hopefully, we win the specification, we get to make the project, and we send it to the robots. So Evan's making a mosaic right now. This is a piece with So this is a small project. It's only about 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet. This is an installation diagram, again generated by our computer after the design is done, and the mosaic is chopped up into 1 square foot sections that the robot will assemble. So Evan here is running the robot. He's cranking out square foot by square foot, and ultimately each of these sheets will get numbered, quality controlled, packed up, and shipped to the work site. This robot, we call it affectionately Artie. It's our first robot and has been a workhorse for us for years. We're now developing our 6th generation of robot, and every generation gets faster and more accurate and more cost effective. Want to look at the quality control process? Let's take a look. Hard to get through here. All right, and then I'm doing some QC here. Here on the top. All right, here we are in our quality control area. I've also doing some quality control. So after each of the sheets are made on the robot, we send them through here. We take a digital photograph of the sheet and we compare it back and forth with the rendering from our design software that you just saw. And this assures that the right colors are in the right positions and that all the tiles are whole and not defective or damaged. Once they're quality controlled, we box them up. These are all boxes of product that's about to get palletized and ready to ship. And off it goes to the work site, anywhere in the world. All right, that's it for the tour. Let's go back to the conference room and I'll take any questions there. Here we go.
Tools for the arts. And since it's sort of taxpayer funded and it was really the beginning of Artaic, I feel obligated to give it back out to the creative community. Designers, architects, artists. So you can go to our website, artaic.com/tilelist, and download it and play with it. We love that because then people learn a bit more about how it works, and then we can collaborate. Even more closely to create a beautiful mosaic.
Okay, so then we have another one.
In Las Vegas, the workshop will be a much deeper dive into the software.
Okay, so we have another question from Karen. Do you fabricate other artists' work for the projects?
So from Karen, the question, do we fabricate other artists' work? Absolutely. We've done that from the very beginning. We are often used as a fabricator in a project collaboration where an artist will win an art commission or propose an art commission. But then, for example, what if the artist is a painter? And what if the commission is for the inside of a swimming pool facility where paint won't hold up over time? And so we get called in to work with the artist to help them transform or translate their art into mosaic tile medium, and then handle the fabrication and support the installation, and really enable artists to win commissions that they otherwise might not be able to. A good example of that is a pool we did for Iowa State University about 5 years ago, where the artist was commissioned. He was a painter. He won the commission, but because paint wasn't the right material for that wet area, we collaborated with the artist, translated their art with their full involvement into our tile medium, and then we fabricated it, we shipped it, and we worked with the installer to install it. And that gave a lot more confidence to Iowa State University that the final installed artwork would be commercial grade and reliable and durable.
Okay, so we have another one from Roy. I would like to know about your design patterning and how it compares to traditional human fabrication.
Could you say it again, Carol, that question?
I would like to know about your design pattern, I guess how you, the patterns, how they're designed, and how it compares to the traditional human fabrication.
Got it. So how our design, sounds like more about our sort of design process based on our computer software versus a traditional method. Well, the traditional method, the artist that's commissioned will conceptualize how they're going to make the mosaic. Most of it is in their head. They might draw some sketches. They might make a little sample. It's really an artistic, more organic human process. In our software, it starts with a bitmap. So a bitmap could be obtained from a scanned drawing. It could be a photograph. It could be a scan of a swatch of fabric. Really anything that can be transformed into a bitmap. And then our software algorithmically processes the source bitmap and the tile palette that we allow it to use, be it stone or glass or ceramic or whatnot. And then it makes a best fit of the material that we give it to use to the source bitmap. So for example, the example of the artist we worked with for the swimming pool, he painted the image, and we got a copy of the painting and scanned it. And then in our software, we loaded the scanned bitmap, and then the software calculates all of the tile placements. It puts the blue tiles where there's water, color, and the black tiles in the black areas, etc. But that really tees it up for our Artaic's design department artists to really fine tune it and make it into a piece of art. I would say our computer software does sort of like the heavy lifting or the rote brute force calculation of where to place what could be 10,000 tiles or over 1 million tiles, which would be extremely tedious to do by hand, and then tease that up for our design department to really make it sing and fine tune it in sort of a kind of like an Adobe Creative Suite kind of environment. So it's really our process is it uses computers for what computers are really good at, which is the brute force computational stuff, and then it uses our artists, or uses whoever's driving the software to create the art. I hope that.
Okay, so we have another question. How many robots do you have in the Boston facility?
We have 5. Well, the 5th one is in the final stages of development. We have a full hardware R&D area, our space in our facility in Boston. So we don't just use the robots here in a manufacturing facility, which we do, but we also are constantly designing and building new robots. And so our 5th generation is in development and should be going into the production area in a couple more months. And we've already started the 6th generation as well. So we can't help it. We keep thinking up new ideas on how to make these robots be more capable and more flexible and faster. And basically, we're trying to find ways to lower the cost for our clients and to make the projects enable us to manufacture them even faster. Our goal is to be extremely competitive pricing and the fastest in the world, and that should help. And incredibly customizable. Everything we make is all made on demand, and we don't have anything stock. We don't offer a catalog of finished product that sits in a warehouse. It's all made on demand, which is the only way you can offer it truly custom for each unique client.
Okay, so we have another question from Claire. Will you ever use non-square tiles with the robot, like rectangles or circles?
Yes, that's a good question. I've always wanted to do that. We started out with the more simple mosaic form, which is if you recall the slide on the styles, the opus regulatum. But the opus vermiculatum is much more, to me anyway, it just feels more artistic and artisanal. So we actually have developed a full software solution for designing those mosaics. We use it every day, and we do produce cut tile mosaics for our clients. We're known more for our square tile mosaics, and they certainly are a little bit faster and lower cost to produce than the cut tile, but we can design and manufacture cut tile mosaics as well.
Okay, that's better. I have another one. Does Artaic do hand-cut mosaics as well? That wasn't clear.
Yeah, I think sounds similar to the previous question, and the answer is yes, we do hand cut. We're not as well known for it, but we certainly do that. And we can, just like we can design and render and sample the square tile mosaics rapidly using that software and processes, we have another version of our software that is for the designing the hand cut style. It's really a fundamentally different software, and it's not one that we've shared yet. It's actually rather complicated to use, because you imagine you need to be designing feature curves and specifying regions and styles of fill of tile. And it does calculate all the geometries of each unique little tile, but there's a lot of interaction with the artist, a lot more specification from the artist than there is with the square tile mosaic.
Okay, so I have another one from Grace, and you might have answered this, but I'll repeat it. Can you tell me the standard sizes of all tiles? It would be so much easier to design something if I knew that.
Right. Well, I'm not sure how much easier it would be. I mean, we specialize in tiles that start at about 3/8 of an inch each. Those are very small, and we go up to an inch and beyond. 1 inch by 1 inch. If you think about it, a 3/8 inch tile, you get about 729 of those per square foot, whereas a 1 inch tile, you get 144 of those per square foot. So when we design for our clients, we look at the surface, and the surface could be a large floor or a large wall area or the inside of a swimming pool or the exterior cladding of a building. It's really a large surface area. And the idea is to cover that surface with the tile, but have the colors of the tile depict a piece of art. So at the end of the day, it's more about the square footage or the total surface area of the finished project, and what tiles fill that out. It could be very small tiles or the 1 inch tiles to fill it out. I hope that answered that question. I'm not sure if that was.
Okay, Julia, can you advance the slide to the contact page? There's quite a few people asking for contact information. I do have another question. What is the cost for the example of the lobby tile you showed us? Unit cost or total cost?
Got it. Cost is always an important question. Custom tile mosaic is not the cheapest option out there. There are cheaper methods. Our custom tile mosaic, I would say, is more competitive in the industry than any of our direct competitors, but it still tends to be fancier or nicer than paint or vinyl or basic carpet, etc. In terms of numbers, we start in the 20s dollars per square foot, and go up over $100 a square foot. It depends on the material. Where an exquisite marble tile is obviously going to cost more than a glazed ceramic or porcelain. And it depends on the size of the tile. So when we use the very small, intricate tiles, there's just a lot more labor, even for the robot, and it takes more time. So we charge based on largely the material and the size of the material. So typical projects, we do projects that are as little as $5,000 for the entire project, and it goes up from there. We've done projects that are hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every project is unique. They're totally customized, and we work with our client to meet a budget constraint, a timeline, and an aesthetic direction.
Okay.
That was,
I have another.
And then.
I have another question. What is the lead time for planning the mosaic to receiving the product for installation on site?
Right. We've done projects in as little as a couple of weeks from start to finish. That's very rare though, because typically our clients are working on a complex project that has lots of other, moving parts. So it tends to be, hey, I want to get started. I need a proposal for my client. So there we'll work very quickly to create concepts for aesthetic and pricing and lead time, and we'll work back and forth very quickly with the designer or the architect to quickly converge on something that they like and want to show to their client, and then hopefully we'll win the specification. So there's sort of a quick surge there, or a hurry period there. Once we're in the specification, depends on the project. If it's a new build hotel, for example, this can happen a year or two before the hotel is actually in construction phase and approaching the final FF&E, Schedule 9 work. So we kind of hang tight. We have all the project, the spec in our system, and then we hear from the bidders who are bidding, the installers who are bidding to do the project, or we hear from the owner developer who wants us to install the project. And then suddenly it's time to get it installed quickly because we want to open the hotel next month. So there tends to be a quick move at the end for the fabrication and the installation. But it typically takes, within a week or two, we can converge on the design with our client and get to the approved design and samples. And then typically the fabrication here in Boston might be anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks, depending on the size of the project and what our backlog might be at that time. And then the installation, you usually need to schedule, a week or so for the installation on site. So you put all those things together. If there was a project that was ready to move on each of the steps, we can do a whole project from concept to installation within a few weeks. But typically there are periods where we stop and wait for the larger project to catch up.
Okay, I have another one from Charlie. Do you offer assistance in the selection of set-in material and also in grout selection based on mosaic color palette?
Great question. Do we help with the assistance on the installation materials and the installation? Absolutely. My goal with Artaic is to make this beautiful 5,000-year-old art form really accessible, really simple, really reliable, so that more people can incorporate it, and that the world can have more mosaic everywhere. So it's not just designing it and fabricating it quickly, but it's also installing it quickly and reliably. And so while we don't manufacture the installation materials, we have over the last 3 years partnered with Bostik, which is a major manufacturer of tile installation materials. And with them, they have about 34 technical service reps on the ground throughout the United States. So our clients, Bostik sort of picks up, and with a referral, gets support on selecting the right installation materials, and even visiting the installation site at no charge, and giving advice and helping supervise for the actual installation. That said, we do know what materials to specify with the tile. So we always make a recommendation in our proposals for which adhesives and which grouts to use on the project. It's a recommendation, and clients don't always follow it, but we offer that at no charge.
Okay, then a question about Canada. Can your installers work in Canada, or technical support available in Canada?
Yep. We've been working in Canada from the beginning. Probably got our first project there 8 years ago. We've done work, from Vancouver to Montreal and as far north as Manitoba, and actually some residential work way up north. So we do it. We have to keep an eye on the shipping and import and taxes and whatnot. But other than that, it's straightforward, and we've done it before, so we can compile those aspects of the project as well in a proposal.
Okay, we've got a ton of questions. I'll take a couple more, and then what I'll do, I'll send them over to you, Ted, and you can answer, and then I'll send it out to an email to everyone that's registered on the webinar. I have a comment here from someone, the NYC Public Artist, and would be interested in the design software as he's working on a large mosaic project in New York City. I have another one. Does it always look like telestation? Am I pronouncing that right? That's from Roy.
Does it always look like what? Was it Teslaization?
Teslaization, sorry. Yeah.
What was it? What was the word?
Teslation. I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah. So the first question was, do we do work in New York? Absolutely. In fact, the first 2 projects we won ever, like 9 years ago, were both in New York. Both on Long Island, actually. And since then, we do work in Manhattan and upstate New York, and New York's a big market, both for the designers, design services that who we work with. We work with a lot of architects, a lot of designers in New York City. We also have a lot of installations in New York and in the city as well. And it's, we're in Boston. I'm actually from New York originally, and I went to college in New York City. So always happy to work with folks from the Empire State. The second question was I think Teslaization. The mosaic tile is inherently a pixelated art form. In the modern era, you can do digital press with inkjet that's 2,000 plus DPI and 24-bit color. And if you want to reproduce a photo in ultra high resolution, you can do that, and it's cheap. And you can print it on vinyl, and you can roll it out on a wall or a floor, and you can do it. But it's not durable, and it's not a mosaic art form. It's a different animal. And one of the aesthetic attributes of mosaic is that it's made from these little bits of material, glass or ceramic or stone, and they carry a certain aesthetic, but they don't carry super high resolution. So probably one of the most common mistakes we get when we work with clients is, I have essentially a very high detailed image, and I want it reproduced in a very small area. We get that a lot from residential. I think recently we got a request from a newly married couple. They sent us their wedding photo. It had something like 26 family members in the wedding photo, both sides of the family lined up behind the bride and groom, and they wanted it on their kitchen backsplash, and they wanted it to be 4 feet wide. So 18 inches by 4 feet wide. There's just not a lot of tiles that you can fit into that surface area, even the 3/8 inch size. And then when you think of a photograph that has 27 or something people in it, you're inherently limited by the resolution constraint of mosaic tile. So there's always a bit of that. Now, if you have the side of a building to work with, which we do sometimes, you can recreate any image because you get millions of tiles to work with. But more common is to be constrained that way. So that's one reason why I don't think photographs are a really good choice to think about as source art for mosaic. It's more figurative or more abstract, and a bit more inherently lower resolution.
Okay, so Roy wanted to ask his question, so I'm going to unmute him real quick. And Roy, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I guess. Good afternoon. I guess I wasn't being understood. So, when an artist is traditionally working with a fabrication company doing mosaics, there is interpretation involved in terms of the actual tile layout, which adds an additional layer to the aesthetic. And my question was, is the design patterning always on a grid, or can your software actually incorporate the tile, the actual physical pieces of tile, create tile patterning to create that additional layer of aesthetic craftsmanship? Do you follow?
I think, Roy, I think, well, first of all, we can do the square tiles in the rectilinear or, opus regulatum style. We can also do the cut tiles, which gives you much more freedom to around the aesthetic and shapes and whatnot. Are you asking about that, or are you asking, do we actually look at the individual texture of each unique tile and use the...
I'm sorry, when you went through the initial review about mosaics, you were talking about the 4 methods of tile layout, and for instance, one of them was in a fan patterning. Yes. This is what I'm referring to.
Oh yeah, we can do that for sure. And we get it. When an artist, it's the artist's commission, it's not our commission, and our job in those kinds of projects is a supporting role. And we bring to bear our tools and our materials and do the best we can to meet the artistic intent of the artist. And it can be challenging in some ways sometimes, because our medium is different than a painter's medium or other media. But through the collaboration, we can converge on what will work.
Okay, just very briefly, because I don't want to take up all the time. The reason I was asking this was last year I was up for a Percent for Art project that was sizable, and it was a really hard sell to sell robotics just for this reason.
Because the review committee felt, it's going to be a boring mosaic, not an art or an industrial commercial mosaic, not a crafted artisanal mosaic.
Exactly. They wanted that hands craftsmanship, and I think they really were not familiar at this point with the technology.
Yeah, well, we get that. There are purists, there are artists, there are plenty of mosaic artists in the United States who have made mosaic their medium of choice, and to a lot of them, I think they really enjoy the manual process, and they make incredibly artisanal, intricate, beautiful work that no robot will ever create. And my answer in those instances is, we make a more automated, more, commercially viable version. And it's not for everyone, but it definitely is more cost effective, and it enables the artists to go after a broader range of commissions and bigger commissions, which is, I think, a good opportunity for the artists. And it allows customers to get into mosaic that otherwise they might not be able to afford. So I think of the work that Artaic does as being kind of at the doorstep of the true handmade artisanal artists, mosaicists, for lack of a better description, who will always inhabit that really high-end top of the pyramid artistry. And Artaic, my company, is really meant to be at the doorstep or an entry level to make the artistry more accessible to the broader market.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. We have another question from Deborah. Deborah, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, I'm wondering, on your pre-fit mosaics that you say you have, do they come on a mesh ground, or how do they get packaged so that the person installing has an easy time of fitting them together?
Good question, Deborah. That print to fit. So we work with the client to get the dimensions of the surface, and which can be challenging, and it can also often be an estimate. It's rare, especially in architectural plans, that the as-builts are perfectly accurate to the architectural plans. But we work with our clients to get as close as we can get to the as-builts. And then in our software, we design the mosaic to fit that surface with those dimensions. The software essentially after the design is done, chops it up into nominally 1 square foot sections, and each section gets numbered. And then when with the robots, we'll manufacture 1 section at a time. If there's, for example, a surface that has a doorway in it or a window, which is a lot more common than not, we don't make those sections. And if a section is on the edge of a doorway, and instead of being a perfect 1 foot square, it's half of a square, we make a sheet that fits that space. And so those are all manufactured, numbered. We hold the tiles together in those sheets, typically with a clear polymer on the front surface. There are 3 or 4 or 5 different methods for holding tiles together in this sheet method. When you're going to ship it, you can use brown paper on the front, clear polymer on the front. Most common of all is a mesh that's glued onto the back side of the tiles. And there's some more exotic things like PVC dots that are extruded in between the tiles and things like that. We don't really like the mesh with the glue on the back because it is a contaminant or barrier between the back of the tile and the adhesive into which you're trying to glue the tile. It's very convenient, but it doesn't lead to a long-term durable install because it's this kind of interstitial layer that it actually interferes with the bond between the tile and the final adhesive. So we strongly recommend the clear polymer, and that's our default for our clients. We can do brown paper and mesh and others, but we steer towards the polymer. And then we box those up. It's typically no more than 20 sheets per box. Each box is numbered. Again, the computer calculates, if this mosaic has 1,223 sheets, it's going to take, so many boxes to do those. Each box gets a sequential number, and we produce a digital, we output a detailed installation diagram that shows all the positions of all the sheets. That goes in box number 1. And when it arrives, we palletize it, ship it to the work site. And when the installer opens up box number 1, there is the installation diagram that shows all the sheets. There's the surface in front of them, and they start adhering the sheets. And lo and behold, if the measurements we got at the beginning were accurate, then these sheets just all fit and don't need to be trimmed or cut around corners or doorways or things like that. So it's a pretty cool process when it works well. It really, really streamlines the overall install. And it really just counts on us getting reasonably accurate measurements of the surface at the beginning.
What happens to the clear polymer then after it's installed?
It's a good question. So because the back side of the tile is naked and that just sets right into the thin set adhesive or mortar, however you want to call it, then now the tiles are held into place permanently in the permanent adhesive. Then you peel away the clear polymer, just like peeling tape off the front. And then that polymer becomes waste, or it can be recycled.
Sounds good.
And then after the polymer comes off, there's the final step, which is the grout, which gets applied in between the cracks of the tiles. And that makes the final finish on the front side.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Sure.
Thanks for your question, Deborah. So what we're going to do, we still have a couple more questions coming in. I'll ask 3 more questions, and if you have typed a question in and it's not answered, I'll make sure I'll follow up with Ted and get the information out to the entire group. So Ted, one of the last 3 questions, what type of mosaic tile is best used for floor applications?
Great, good question. What kind of tile for floor? Before I answer it, hey, I really appreciate all these questions. This is great. Honestly, I didn't expect to get this many, so I'm grateful. Keep them coming, and any more that we can't answer, I promise I will answer in the follow-up. So feel free to keep adding them up until the end here. So the question about the flooring, one thing that I want Artaic to be for our clients is an expert advisor or consultant on the materials to be used on each project. And projects, there's such a wide range of projects. There's a lot of knowledge that's needed to recommend and choose the right material for the job. But that's our department, and that's what we do every day, and we've learned. And so whenever we propose a project to our client, we say, here are a few options for material that are appropriate for this job. And a floor is one of the more challenging, the more challenging. Probably the most challenging would be an outdoor surface on the ground, especially in a climate like, say, Boston, where we have harsh winters and water freezes. So like a commercial outdoor floor would be, in a cold, freezing climate, could be one of the most challenging surfaces of all. And that there are materials that will hold up to that, but there are a number that won't. So the stone that we have, the marble, that's all floor grade, and it's through body stone, and it's typically 3/8 of an inch thick. So even if you ever wore off a few millimeters of the surface, you'd still have the same stone underneath. And that's why the Roman mosaics that you find, even though they're 2,000 years old, and they might have 2 or 3 or 4 centimeters of millimeters of wear in them, they still have the rest, another millimeters of thickness of stone still left. And so they're incredibly durable. Some of the ceramics, particularly the unglazed porcelain, is also through body, and that will hold up as well on a commercial floor. We have a glass that's called sintered glass. It's the manufacturing process. It's made from 100% recycled glass that's pulverized and crushed into powder, and then oxides are added for color. And then each little tile is pressed in a hydraulic press into a little shape or a puck, which is then fired in a furnace to near melting temperature, and the glass particles sinter together. That makes for an incredibly durable glass, and that is class 4 commercial grade. So those are some examples of some materials that will hold up in those really harsh environments. On the other hand, for example, an indoor residential wall, you can do anything you want. It could be any material, virtually, because it's such a low wear and tear kind of environment. So that's my answer on the floor situation.
Okay. Do you require a specialty installer?
No, my goal with Artaic was not to have special installers everywhere. We want to do work all over the world, and to have to, train installers on new special processes sounds like a really slow way to get more mosaics out there in the world, which is our goal, and get more of this beautiful art form out. So everything in our process, everything we ship is really streamlined and simplified for your typical installer to be able to pick up and say, no problem, I can do this. Everything from the way we pack it, to the installation diagram, to the labeling, to the recommendation of the right installation materials, and the in-field technical support is all there to help typical, professional tile installers do a great job.
Okay, and then the last question, do you have a showroom or tours available at the facility?
We do. We love to have tours. We are literally in the Boston Design Center in downtown Boston. This is the epicenter of architectural design products in the New England region. And we're probably the only, or nearly the only, company in this building that actually manufactures our product here. Most every other showroom here is just that. They show the product, but they don't manufacture it. There are a few exceptions, but because our robotic system is so compact compared to a huge, labor sweatshop facility, we can do an awful lot of work in a small square footage, and it makes the high rent worthwhile. So if you come and visit us, which we invite everybody to do, in the Boston Design Center in downtown Boston, Massachusetts, we have our doors open. We have our design group here, our robotic manufacturing facility and team here, our R&D here, our inventory here too. You can lay your hands on some of the materials. We have about 2,200 different SKUs of material on hand, ranging from the ceramic to the glass to the stone. We even have gold and silver, we have crystal tile, all kinds of fun materials to play with.
Okay. Well, I can't begin to say thank you enough. We've gone over our allotted time, but I think it was great information. And I can tell by the number of people that are still on the webinar that they found value in what you had to offer. I just wanted to say, if any of our attendees on the webinar, you're planning on attending the show in January, TED's full 90-minute workshop will be held on Tuesday, January the 30th, and it's from 3:45 to 5:15. It's going to be very interactive. Bring your laptop, download the software, and it's going to be fun. And Ted, I just want to say thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this for us. And we'll see you in 2018 with a new webinar series. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.